All right, so get this. 9 years since his last solo album, David Gilmour is back with Luck and Strange.
9 years is a long time.
It is. Especially since, and I almost don't want to say this out loud, he's saying it's his strongest work since Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Dark Side is legendary, not just for Pink Floyd, but like in music history.
For sure. The bar is set really high.
Yeah, no pressure, David, right.
Right.
But so, for anyone who might not have all of Pink Floyd's discography memorized like some of us, can you give us a little bit of background on Gilmour and why this is such a big deal?
Yeah, so Gilmour's guitar work, I mean, you can just tell it's him immediately. You know, it's that emotive, like lyrical way he plays.
Yeah.
Think about some of the most famous Pink Floyd solos. You've got Comfortably Numb, Money. Those are iconic, and they're pure Gilmour. So this album, it's not just a new release, it's like this whole other chapter in a musical legacy that goes back decades.
And let's talk about that legacy for a second.
Yeah.
Specifically, the Pink Floyd of it all. I mean, the pre-release buzz for this album was huge, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we were getting singles, we were getting teasers, and even these little snippets that had unreleased recordings from Rick Wright.
Okay, for anyone who doesn't know, and I can't believe there's anyone out there, Rick Wright was Pink Floyd's keyboardist.
Right.
Crucial to their classic sound.
Hugely important.
So to have him on this album, even though you know,
Yeah.
it's pretty special for fans.
It really is. It adds a whole other layer to everything.
Exactly. Okay, I think we've kept everyone waiting long enough. Let's actually dive into this album. Where do we even start with an album that's supposed to be this good?
Well, it kicks off with Black Cat, and it's this short instrumental that sets the mood, you know?
It's like you're stepping into a smoky jazz club.
Yes.
Like you know something's about to go down, but the waiting is part of the fun.
Yeah, and then bam, we hit the title track, Luck and Strange.
This is where you really hear those blues influences that Gilmour's known for.
For sure.
And this is where we first hear Rick Wright, right?
Yes.
The way his piano blends with Gilmour's guitar it's almost haunting. Like you can feel the history there.
You can. It's amazing they were able to do that.
And then we go from that to the Piper's Call.
Which, I'll be honest, floored me.
You know, talk about a journey. It starts with this ukulele, which is not something I was expecting. And then it builds and builds to this soaring guitar anthem that just screams Gilmour.
It does.
It made me think about Wish You Were Here, the way it uses those quieter moments before exploding into those huge guitar solos.
Yeah.
And just when you think you know what to expect from this album, boom, he switches it up again with a single spark.
Yeah, definitely brings the energy down a bit.
But it keeps you guessing.
It does.
And the guitar work is still fantastic.
Oh, for sure. It's just different, you know?
Like he's showing off how many different kinds of songs he can write.
Right.
And speaking of different, then we go to Vita Brevis.
What'd you make of that one?
At first I was like, okay, interesting. But it's only 2 minutes long.
Life is short, right? That's what the title means.
Oh, I didn't even...
Yeah, it's Latin.
See, that's why I love doing this with you. I always learn something.
Well, I'm glad someone is... I mean, musically, it's very Gilmour. It's that reflective vibe, but done instrumentally.
Yeah, it's like he's saying, okay, we'll get back to rocking out in a bit, but let's just think about things for a second.
Exactly, and then we go right back to it with Between 2 Points.
Which has his daughter, Romany, singing.
I thought that it's a cover, too.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Most people wouldn't think of Gilmour and immediately go to like this folky, kind of whimsical sound.
But it works.
Totally. But then, talk about a change. Dark and Velvet Nights.
This is one of my favorites, but I'll be honest, it took a few listens.
It took a few for me too. I think because it's so different from the rest of the album.
Yeah, it's got that real driving rhythm.
It's definitely got that raw energy that you expect from him.
Yeah, and then Sings, we go straight from that to like the quietest song on the album, I think.
I know. It's like the complete opposite. This is one I think I need to hear live. I just want to see what he does with it.
Oh, yeah, that would be amazing. But then we get to Scattered. That's when I started to believe him about this being his best since Dark Side.
It's a strong contender for sure.
It's got everything. You've got these cascading pianos. It builds and builds.
And the guitar solo at the end.
Iconic Gilmour, but fresh too, you know.
Okay, but the album isn't even over yet. Don't forget the bonus tracks.
Oh, right. We have to talk about Yes, I Have Ghosts.
Another great one with Romany.
Yeah. And then Lookin' Strange, Barn Jam. Now we're talking
14 minutes long?
It's a whole other experience. Like it could be its own EP or something.
It lets the jazz influence really come out.
For sure. And the way Rick Wright's piano is used in it, You can tell Gilmour was really thinking about how to use that for this one.
It's like they're jamming together in the studio, even though he couldn't be.
Yeah, and you get that with the other musicians he used for this one, too.
Well, speaking of which, we should probably talk about the production on this album because it's really interesting, right? So Gilmour brought in a new producer for Luck and Strange, Charlie Andrew.
Right, and what's interesting about that is you don't really associate him with this kind of music.
Right, like if anything, he's more like indie pop.
Right. Yeah, and he said Gilmour actually asked him to produce the album, and he thought Gilmour was joking when he first got the call.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it really works. It seems like he really pushed Gilmour to try some new things.
Yeah, definitely. Like, apparently he even questioned using those big fade-out solos that Gilmour loves.
And you can tell, like the end of Scatter,
Exactly.
it just ends. But it makes you pay attention to the piano.
Which I think is the whole point. And then there's the jazz influence, which we've talked about a little.
There's a lot of it on this album.
Way more than anything we've heard from him before. Like, on Barn Jam, he used a whole different group of musicians, brought in a jazz arranger.
Yeah, like really went for it.
Yeah. Which makes sense, because he's always loved jazz, but he hasn't always put it in his music, at least not like this.
So I think the big question we have to answer before we let everyone go is, did he do it?
Did he what?
Did he actually make his best work since Dark Side?
It's tough to say. I mean, Dark Side is Dark Side. You know, it's one of the best-selling albums of all time.
But you're saying this one has the potential to be.
I think it does. This isn't just a nostalgia album, you know? It's got that Gilmour sound, but it's pushing boundaries.
It's like, okay, here's what I can do, but also here's what else I can do.
Yeah. And the thing about albums like this, albums that really make you think and feel something, is you don't always know what you think of them right away.
Yeah, it takes time.
Yeah. You have to live with it, come back to it.
Exactly. So maybe in a few months we'll have a different answer to that question. One review actually compared Luck and Strange to Wish You Were Here, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, that's another album that's really about, like, looking inward.
And this one definitely have those themes of, I don't know, mortality, time passing.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think it's a fair comparison, though I'm sure some Pink Floyd diehards would disagree.
They always do. So should our listeners drop everything and go listen to Luck and Strange right now?
I would say if you are a fan of Gilmour's, even a little bit, you need to hear this. It's an experience. And even if you don't love every single song, I guarantee you'll hear something you haven't heard before.
And isn't that what it's all about? Finding those albums that surprise you, that stay with you.
It is.
So go listen, form your own opinions, and maybe, just maybe, you'll agree with Gilmour. Maybe this is his best work yet.